Ooh. Oh. Ooh, that's close. Oh, that's really close. Ah, run! Too close! Run! Woohoo! Ooh, fireworks. Pretty. It's coming right at us!
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast. This is, of course, Glenn Hausman, and I am so thrilled to have you here today with me. Why? Because, hey, man, I'm almost on vacation. I'm here a couple of days. I'm out at Montauk Point, Long Island, a place that I never get to go. Now, I'm a guy that lives on Long Island. I grew up on Long Island. All right, I spent 25 years living in Manhattan and Brooklyn and all that type of stuff, but I am a Long Island boy at heart, and I wonder myself sometimes why I don't ever go out to Montauk. And I'll tell you right now, I'm at the Montauk Yacht Club, getting ready to celebrate July 4th holiday weekend and having a great time. Now, hey, I could have plenty of fun on my own, but I thought it'd be even more fun if I brought in the CEO of Island Global Yachting, also known as IGY, Mr. Tom Mukamal, and Mr. Charlie Irons, VP of Hospitality here. Hey, gentlemen, how are you guys?
Very good.
Doing great.
Well, it's really good to talk with you both. And so the audience knows, Tom, you're calling in remotely, and Charlie, I'm sitting here right next to you out in lovely Montauk. What a great day. I want to thank both of you for arranging such perfect weather for me to have out here, by the way.
Well, I did talk to God this morning.
Oh,
and,
good.
He was very excited for you to be here and for you to interview us, and he made it happen.
Well, that is really good. It's good to know that finally I've met someone who has a direct connection with the Lord. So, hey, that's good to know. He must have had something to do with that amazing dinner I had last night, too, there, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when you're in Montauk, you're at the end of Long Island, so he sees us very clearly.
Right. So, now, Tom, you just told me before we got started, you've been on the road for 5 weeks. Otherwise, you'd be out here. I got to tell you, you are missing out, but I suspect you know what a great place this is already.
Well, apparently when I was out there last, Charlie didn't feel like talking to God, so we've had some rough weather. We had some rough weather in the spring, as most New Yorkers know. So I'm glad, Charlie, that you opened your direct connection.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks. That was a loaded question.
Yes,
Thank you very much. For that,
I'll be honest with you. I feel like we just had winter, then summer. We kind of missed spring, but enough of all of this fabulous weather talk, because that's really what people are tuning in for. So, Tom, I got to tell you, it's really interesting what you folks are doing. I'm here at the Montauk Yacht Club. Believe it or not, a property I've never visited in my entire life. And you guys have recently taken it over, and I get a sense that things are really, really changing around here. What's going on? What's the status of IGY's role here at the Montauk Yacht Club? And, what are people thinking about in terms of taking that vacation out east, for example, on Long Island?
Well, we've actually owned the property in some form or fashion since about 2008. We renovated it the first time in 2009. We organizationally were one of the first of kind of the new investors out in Montauk back. Right. Which is now going on 10 years, and it's really been quite a ride over the last 10 years to see the changes out there. Like I said, we did our first renovation in 2009, and then enough time had passed, and enough new players came into the market that we really, really needed to up our game over the past year. Charlie, who swore he would never go through a cold winter again, came out of winter retirement, thankfully, and has really, really led the revitalization behind the yacht club for this season. And so I think, Charlie, you're in it day to day. You're the one sort of driving that agenda for us. Why don't you go through kind of what you see as sort of the big changes we've made and kind of where we're headed?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking, Charlie. I want to know all about how you feel that you're meeting the touchstones that you need to satisfy today's ever more sophisticated and finicky guests, and giving them those surprises that'll wow them throughout their experience.
Sure. I think that when we came out here in the winter, we didn't want to do a lot of changes that would open up the property. It's very big property, but it felt a bit compartmentalized. So what we did for the first thing is that for the pool example, we added a glass around the pool, which really opens up that area for a variety of reasons. You can actually see inside the pool now when people are in it. You can see the activity. Before, it felt a bit closed in.
I would also say it looks a lot more sophisticated with what you've done. I mean,
Absolutely.
by law, you have to have a fence around the pool.
Absolutely, correct.
But who said that it has to be a disgusting, ugly fence, right?
Correct.
So clear, pretty sweet. My family was saying, "Oh, that's a great design element." Last night.
And then what we did also is that because we have the pool and you can see through it at night, the colors change in the pool. So if you wanted to have a reception outside or things like that, if you're just by the fire, you're still looking at the pool, still creates that really nice, sophisticated vibe that should be here. For a lot of the rooms, what we did was we did a lot of touch points on the rooms in general. We changed the beds. We did some upgrades to the vanities, especially for the females that we had in mind for that aspect. The wet bars have been updated. Refrigerators have been updated. We did all of the hallways with new new art in the hallway. So as you're walking through, it's just not, I like to call it plain Jane or vanilla. And then for the villas, we actually did we renovated the entire villa. So we just really gutted it and redid it to make it more sleek, nice lines, but simple, right? Which what I think a lot of people want. I think you can overdo it sometimes.
I think that you can. I see much more in design. It's a less is more type of approach. Just streamlines, a nice use of colors, and just an overall relaxing tone. And I got to tell you, both. The hotel feels like it's got that new hotel smell. You walk down the hallway, and it definitely feels that way.
Yeah, I think for we did want to lose a character of Montauk Yacht Club, right? Because a lot of times you can take over a hotel, renovate it, and it just takes away from what it is. It's still, we're attached to a marina where there's 232 slips. A lot of these seasonal boaters have been coming here for 20, 30 some odd years. You don't want to take away from that character.
Right.
We want to actually enhance it. So you'll see a lot of the artwork that still gives that ode to what Montauk Yacht Club currently is, but with some sophistication to it. And I think that's what people are looking for. I think when you come out to Montauk at the end of the Long Island, you hear that and you don't know what to expect.
Right.
And this is what they really want to expect. You want to see a lot of water. You want to see the openness. You want your room to be simple because, quite frankly, we want your room to be great, but we want you out of your room. We want you to enjoy our bars, enjoy our restaurants, and enjoy Montauk as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you get that right tone to honor what was here because it's an older building?
Sure.
But at the same time, you want to make sure that it feels as modern and new and as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, I think you really do a little bit of kind of that old nostalgic look where you have a lot of the artwork and the pictures and everything, so it brings back what people won't normally expect. You don't knock down the walls and things of that nature, but you also refine it from a sophistication standpoint where the bathrooms feel a bit updated, the beds feel better, you get a really nice sleep when you're here, the drinks are sophisticated, things of that nature, where as you're in the property and you're walking around, you have activities, things of that nature, you feel like, okay, I'm at a place that I was for when I was a kid and I ran around before, but now it's just come up with the times.
Right. And I want to thank you both for having a chess set here. My kids played chess last night.
There you go.
That's something that they never do at home. They're too focused on the computers, but we're not allowing them to have any screen time while we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
And I should say my family is actually here with me, which is something I never really get to do. Yes, Tom.
Why shouldn't they be? I mean, one of the things I would add to what Charlie said is, owning a lot of waterfront property, you recognize that they're extremely diverse. They serve lots of different constituencies. And so when you talk about sort of what the feel of the property is going to be, I mean, I think part of getting it right is to really acknowledge that you're not serving a single stakeholder group, that you've got all these boats out in the water. They're all different. They have different people on them. They've been around for some have been around for a long period of time. Some are newcomers. We have people at the resort that are staying with us, people that are coming to eat with us. Some are families. Some are, more, single and looking for a different kind of vibe, and really trying to understand how you've got this sort of like incredibly diverse ecosystem and trying to figure out ways in which you make everyone feel welcome, but you satisfy sort of what everyone's objective is of being there. And it's not that easy, but we managed to do it in lots of different places, and I think some of that just is the experience of having owned a lot of similar assets sort of all over the world.
Right.
And Glenn, I think to add to Tom's point, at any given time, because you have 232 slips, right? So like July 4th will be completely sold out in the marina, right? So if you take each slip will probably have 2 to 4 people on a boat, right? So that's, if you just do the math on that, that's already over 800 people.
Wow.
That'll just be on property from the marina side. Hotel side, minimum is 2 per room. So now you've got 1,000 people on your property at any given time using your facility, going back and forth, a lot of traffic. Add some employees to that, and now you're at around 1,100, 1,200 people. So there's a massive amount of people that are actually on the property who are engaged into what Montauk Yacht Club is and love just coming here every single year. Now, what makes that exciting is when you have 1,200 people constantly coming back to your property, and these are not new.
Right.
You have to keep the heartbeat of the business, and the heartbeat of the business really is F&B. Right, and that's where the sophistication comes in.
I know. Sorry, I was just drifting off thinking about the food.
Come back to me, Glenn. Come back to me.
You mentioned F&B, and I was thinking about the colossal shrimp that I had last night, bigger than my head, Tom. It was quite the shrimp over there. So I want to talk a little bit about this marina, and I got to tell you, as a hotel guy, I know nothing about marinas except I saw one at Atlantis in the Bahamas once, right? So what's that business like, and then why does it make you want to get into the hospitality business?
Sure. I mean, I think part of that business is its own segment of the hospitality business, but it's also peppered in with being in the real estate business, the infrastructure business, the fuel business in some cases, the energy business, the water business. You're in a lot of different, you got your hands in a lot of different buckets. But,
right.
But fundamentally, as Charlie said, people come to a marina on a boat. They're not really there to stay on their boat. If they wanted to be on their boat, they'd be out at the water. So really, they're there to enjoy, to either recharge their battery or to enjoy, the scenery and the lifestyle of where they are. So, we spent a lot of time getting sort of the waterside hospitality elements of the marina business right. We own a lot of sort of high-end saltwater, deep water facilities from South America all the way up to New York.
Holy cow.
And they do, and Mexico, Panama, pretty much in this hemisphere.
Right.
We've got 17 really distinct locations, and they all, the theme that runs through all of them is they're all sort of higher-end saltwater locations. We used to own some facilities in Croatia and Greece and Turkey, and we're out in the market in Europe again now looking for new assets there. But bottom line is, in the marina business, it's even, you're serving it. It's a small segment of hospitality, but it's a pretty varied segment. You could have in one location people that have been on, that are on 40 or 50-foot sailboats coming from Europe to St. Lucia, and you're serving that hospitality segment, or you could be servicing yacht crew on a 200-foot yacht that has a crew of 30 people, and that yacht crew becomes your customer. To the folks at the Montauk Yacht Club who might have, a 40-foot power boat, and they come out and live on the boat over the weekend. So you really are servicing and trying to understand the needs of a really broad array of customers that have really different needs. And it took, a number of years to really figure out the different market segments that we had found ourselves in, because we literally just went out and started buying these assets and in some cases building them.
Right.
And, we've really gotten to a sort of a point in our evolution where, we've Charlie's been with us for a number of years now. He's got a lot of experience in this sector. He has been all over lots of our assets now, and we're at a point in sort of the corporate evolution where we need to kind of look at bringing kind of the landside elements up to the level of service that we can provide in the water, and really exploiting those opportunities to better serve our customers and bring new customers onto our assets. I had a a meeting once with a guy here in New York who had been a journalist who really kind of this was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, got me attuned to the fact he started calling the water around New York City the sixth borough.
Right.
And it got me, I kind of thought about that, and I kind of look at it that way everywhere now, where it's like, people want to be connected to the water, they want to be around the water, and so there's a lot more opportunity for us to really up our game in sort of the more traditional hospitality verticals rather than simply just being really good at marina hospitality.
And I do want to talk to you about your plan that you announced very recently to open a hotel division and get into that kind of a universe. But I do want to talk about this marina thing for a little minute. It's very interesting to me. You said servicing different types of guests, and I saw that in full swing last night. People with more I'll just say modest-sized boats, and then people that did not have modest-sized boats. Giant cruisers out there. I don't know the official terminology, but some massive, massive ships. How are you able to successfully satisfy both types of clientele? Because from an outsider's point of view, it seems like they're looking for different things in their experience.
Yeah, I mean, they really are. We call those really large boats, in industry term, they're called mega yachts or super yachts. And if you come to the Caribbean next winter, which you're welcome to, you'll see that the ones you're looking at Montauk don't even scratch the surface. I mean, we have customers that come, one vessel in particular that stays with us regularly, and she is 450 feet long. And those boats, you're really, in that instance, you're acting more like a private airport for them,
right.
Because there's nothing you can provide to that boat that it doesn't have on board. It's got a better chef than you have. Sorry, Charlie, but it can do everything. It's better resourced than you are. It's got its own security team, its own medical team, you name it, and really your job is to kind of liaise with the senior management of that boat and help them do the best job they can for the owner or the user of that boat.
Right.
And
yes, sorry, go on.
That is hospitality for that segment. But that said, most of the crew on that boat is probably age 20 to 26.
Right.
They're from lots of different countries all over the world. They want to get off the boat and have a good time because that is their workplace.
Right.
So
and they get to be my age. They just want to sit and not have a good time. Just kind of relax.
Right. So Charlie, when Charlie worked with IGY down in St. Thomas, I mean, Charlie, how many events did you throw for yacht crew down in St. Thomas?
Oh, we did about 10 to 15.
Right.
10 to 15 just in season.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty awesome. So you're creating more of a social atmosphere for those kids too.
Correct too, and I think that also even the owners of those boats still want to get off the boat, even though they have everything that they want there.
Right, of course.
People just want a really good experience.
Well, it's like, why would you go all the way here from another country and then stay on the boat?
Right, exactly. So you want to get off. I mean, when you're on a boat, you want to be out in the water, right? So like Tom said, if I'm docked, I don't want to stay on my boat and have dinner when I want to be around people. That's why people go to restaurants, right? So I think that the beauty of Montauk Yacht Club is you have those different genres of people that you're going to commingle with, and to provide that experience that everyone's going to be able to get what they're looking for is exceptional. It's very difficult as well, right? Because sometimes when you've, like Tom said, and I don't believe that the chef on the yacht is better. I'm just going to say that, but but I think
which makes me say,
I know, it depends on the chef.
Yeah, whenever you hear "Sorry, Charlie," does it make you have flashbacks to old tuna fish commercials?
Yeah, I know I'm gonna get off the phone and start crying in a corner, and then I wipe my tears and get.
Okay, sorry, Charlie, I didn't mean to
please don't make this
you.
a therapy session. I will totally lay down on this couch. But I think that's what's great about Montauk Yacht Club and also our other facilities, right? Because like in St. Thomas, as you said, there's some boats that are 453 feet. I mean, this is a massive boat. It looks like a cruise ship.
Right.
There's another boat that might be not too far from it that's only 150 feet, right? So now you're looking at that small boat, and I'm talking small boat, by the way. It's 150, right? Yeah. But you're looking at it as
like, size of my house.
Look at that guy. He can't get this other boat. But all of those people still go to the restaurants that are in those areas because, again, when I want to be on a boat when I'm in the water, not when I'm docked.
Right.
If I'm on land, I want to be out.
And honestly, when you have a boat that's big, you're not too worried about the fact that you're paying crew and a chef on the boat when you go out to dinner.
I don't think you worry about anything, actually.
Except that the guy next to you might have a bigger yacht, right?
Yeah. That's the only problem in life.
So, Tom, I'm kind of getting the idea here about how both of these industries intersect in a lot of ways. You told me how you're already in the business of real estate, for example. That must be a very important skill set to have now that when you're thinking of moving into the more traditional hotel business that's onshore instead of offshore.
Yeah, I mean, and most of the marinas that we own, or in fact, I mean, pretty much all of them, they all have real estate attached to them. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the challenges in this business is that unlike, owning, some investors say, well, we're going to get into the hotel business in, major NFL markets, and they're buying basically,
right.
Very similar structures in very similar cities with very similar profiles. And from an investment standpoint, it's a lot easier to get your arms around, and it's certainly a lot easier to operate. We have found in 10 years of doing this, we have been, we've operated in some of the toughest locations, and we've provided, really, really high value service in highly seasonal, difficult environments that, where we've dealt with hurricanes and seasonal workforce and, foreign governments and you name it. And, we've managed to really understand how to do that and provide really good service. And so, just the experience of running the Montauk Yacht Club in and of itself has been a tremendous learning experience to understand what it's like to run a seasonal resort in a remote-ish location that makes most of its money in a really short period of time. We feel like our game is good enough now to start doing that in a more programmatic way in similar markets. I mean, we're already doing it, so it doesn't make sense for us not to sort of continue that evolution.
Are you hoping to find markets that are more well-balanced, or you feel that your expertise can handle these highly seasonal markets?
I think that there are only a handful of sort of well-balanced markets where there are marinas, because I think like the sort of waterfront tie is kind of in our DNA. And so those are certainly the ideal markets because you don't have that seasonality issue. But, look, we want to do it, from Charlie to myself to a lot of the other folks on the corporate team that we work really close with, we've all been together for a long period of time now, and we really like to keep it fun and interesting, and so we don't mind interesting and unique places wherever that takes us. We just bought a property in Panama, and it is exceedingly interesting and very unique and very hard to get to, but we went in head first because because we like the challenge and we know it's going to provide a unique experience for people who show up there.
Does that have a hotel component to it in Panama?
It does. It's called Red Frog Beach Resort. It is owned and run separately, but nevertheless, it is an incredibly unique place to go and stay. And so we own the marina there, and are as of a couple of months ago, and it's a tremendous place. Really, really interesting.
That's really an interesting idea to me, this whole thing, especially the seasonality aspect of it. I mean, how you make all your money in 12 weeks and the other 40 is a lot more stressful. I get how you're making the money in the 12 weeks. That's no surprise. Charlie, maybe you can answer this since you're going to be here. Sure. What are you doing in February? Obviously, you have meeting rooms. What kind of groups are you attracting? How are you trying to keep this hotel functioning so you're not just paying your bills but making a little cash on the side too?
Great question. So typically, and again, and there's portions of certain years where they will be in renovation, like we did a renovation this year, so it's difficult to get groups when you're renovating the hotel. On other years, we really focus on the business groups or team building, things of that nature, church groups, social is a big one as well. So the challenge with the seasonality of business and obviously weather, right, is a huge factor. Is how can we get them in and then get them in repetitively within that month, right? Because for example, I have to bring staff in from a seasonal aspect, and then while we're here, if I have a group for the week, it's amazing. Once that week is over, if I have nothing going on, I just have staff here.
Oh boy!
Right, so that's a big expense.
Yeah.
So you really have to look at how you can strategically manage the groups coming in and make it all make sense so you don't have any gaps or large gaps in between groups in those shoulder months,
Right.
Which I typically call like that. March is a difficult month. April, then it'll start to pick up. April and May really are group driven, less on transient. You hit June, July, and August, which I always call the 100 days, if you will, right to Labor Day. Is when you talk about like your 12 weeks is when the money's coming in, and that's when everybody's coming out.
And you don't need groups.
Right?
Except you'll have the weddings. And
I mean,
stuff,
a group's
sort of
not bad if they want to pay that rate.
Oh,
But there's
not
a lot of groups that are paying at that point. But then you get into September, October, November, and that's perfect time to get married. I mean, I always say September is probably the best month in New York. If anything, right? It's right that kind of right in that cusp of it's not too hot.
September's amazing.
It's an amazing month to be here anywhere, actually, in New York, right? So that's a good time for us for weddings. And then October, November, typically our strategy months we go out for businesses where people are planning their budgets. Right, so you have those budget meetings, things of that nature, where we can get a lot of that, and that's really happens in October, November. Right after Thanksgiving, we typically close.
Right. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And you can do your renovations. And
exactly.
All that
exactly.
Stuff.
And some renovations can happen from marina side.
Right.
The boats typically start to leave around September, and you can start doing renovations between September and November because that's still a good month to do some work and get it done outside.
Right. So, Tom, I think he was clear. I don't need to ask any more follow-up questions with you on that. So let me jump to another topic real quick. Are you going to be planning to do new construction, or are you just looking for great assets and then just reinventing them for a higher yield?
No, I think right now we're looking at some new construction on assets we already own. In the Caribbean in particular, because there has been, some islands have seen a lot of development and others have not, and so that were sort of disproportionately impacted by the financial crisis and are sort of out of favor from the investment community, but because we've been in the Caribbean for so long, we have a better understanding of the market and where the opportunities are. So we're looking at some new construction. We'd be looking at some repositioning or repurposing of assets, and then also just to sort of building out a third-party management platform where it's appropriate for other, maybe institutional investors or individual investors that, don't want to be running a seasonal property, and we would be sort of a really good, reliable partner to help do that successfully for them.
Yeah, I really like the idea that you guys are highly focused on a niche that everybody else isn't. I spent half of my life, I'm lying, 90% of my life talking to guys that own, select service industries and select service hotels and secondary markets, right? So it's fun to see you guys focusing on real full-service properties in out-of-the-way locations that are a very different wrinkle than what we traditionally see in the hospitality industry. I think that gives you an interesting edge and point of view and hopefully a lot more successes. Speaking of the Caribbean, what do you think about Puerto Rico these days? They seem to be having a lot of financial trouble, but seem to be getting people coming nonetheless.
Yeah, Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, are in similar straits. They are, both have some, issues at the government level, with bonds and et cetera. But that being said, we do see, I'm there all the time. It is busy, and people are visiting. And our view on this is that they will sort out their issues. It may take some time, but we are, kind of long investors in the Virgin Islands in particular. We know the folks in government and the people that are sort of, dealing with these crises on the day to day, and we've got a long view and we're behind them.
How do you get the discipline to have a long view? We're really in a world here of instant gratification. Thank you, Internet. So how do you, how do you sit back and have patience, especially if you have other investors that are partnering with you and, we got that Wall Street mentality going on?
Yeah, I think we are just very fortunate enough to be capitalized by investors who are willing to be patient, and they have started to see. We're a company that's been through the financial crisis, and so we, obviously in a very very small sliver of the leisure segment through a very difficult period, through oil spikes and. We've seen the worst of it, and so I think our investor base has seen real results over the past 5 or 6 seasons, and they're very happy with it, and so they are, they're behind us and they're believers in what we're doing, and I think we're just fortunate to have those types of partners.
All right. Now, before I go back and eat some more oyster chowder, guys, any final thoughts? Anything you feel that I've missed at this point? I feel you guys have got a good, comprehensive, interesting story. Tom, Charlie, anything?
No, I think the last thing I would say is that right now we're, like Tom said, our focus is really based on water. So anything that's close to water, we will be focused on. I mean, we've done a lot of good work with our assets, and I think we look at anything we can do or get into or have a joint venture with. We're open to the possibility.
Mm-hmm. Great,
but it's a new venture for us, and it's great.
Yep, Tom.
Yeah, and it's again, like it's to anyone, to those who are listening, to the millions of listeners. This is it's a very unique space, and for people that want to, that aren't as connected to the water, it's like an encouragement to go down and get more connected to it. I think it's good for you, and it's also good to it's good to kind of understand that vibe wherever you are, and I think that really kind of is gets people more of an indicator of where the opportunities are, and to come check us out and see what we're all about.
Awesome. So how can people check you out? IGYMarinas.com, but how else can we find you guys?
IGYMarinas.com. We are, for anyone in New York City, we're running the marina at Brookfield Place down at North Cove. They can come out to the Montauk Yacht Club, come on down to the Virgin Islands and see us. We have a couple of assets there, or just go to the website. You'll see where we are, and plan a trip around us.
Excellent. I love it. Interesting angle for investors out there and for consumers too. Charlie, any final thoughts?
No, that's it. Thank you, Glenn.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being here, and I want to thank everybody for listening. Before we go to commercial break, I want to point out that you guys could soon start reading a weekly column I'm going to be doing on the You Must Be Trippin' consumer-focused website for Best Western. That'll be pretty exciting. I start next week, I think, with that. So take a look in those articles, and be sure you check out hotelroi.com. I'm going to be hosting a couple of those events coming up throughout the year. And hopefully I'll have a chance to take some time off, which I think, Charlie, is going to be the rest of today. I'm going to go do a catamaran kind of a tour.
Nice.
That should
Very
be
nice.
kind
That's
of fun.
awesome.
So I will see you guys on the other side of the commercial break, unless, of course, I fall off the catamaran and cannot get back onto land. That'll be pretty sad, pretty depressing. But stick around, because actually after this commercial break, I have an interview with a New York icon. I'm going to be talking to the folks at the Circle Line Cruises, which was kind of fun. I taped that recording recently. Anyone in New York coming to visit New York, you're going to love that. I will see you guys next week, but be sure to stick around after the commercial break for that. Thanks for listening.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Glenn here. And if you're like me, then I know that you love terrific art. Art that creates a sense of place. Art that tells a story of where you are. Art that adds a level of detail that you can't get anywhere else. And great folks that do this, Kevin Barry Fine Art Associates. You can find them online at kevinbarryfineart.com, and I highly encourage that you check them out. One recent project that I'm totally in love with is the Fairmont, Washington, D.C., where they created a custom project with a local artist, and they created some of this on site. They actually created a multi-dimensional wall sculpture from gold blocks, which is an abstracted map grid of the Washington, D.C. area. It's got different elevations to it and looks absolutely fantastic. It was done along with Deborah Forrest and Amanda Jackson of Forrest Perkins, which is now Perkins Eastman. And they all work together to create this fabulous new look. So if you want to create a fabulous new look for your hotel, or if you just love great art, check out kevinbarryfineart.com or give him a call at 310-945-2655. Let him know Glenn sent you.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
So one of the things that I used to like doing growing up, my mom would always take me in to New York City. I grew up on Long Island, and it was a lot of fun going into New York because you never knew what you were going to expect. Always an adventure in New York, and we acted like sightseeing people for the other day. Like I was all those out-of-town guests, the ones that I kind of get annoyed by seeing in Times Square now that I'm older and I've lost my sense of appreciation for people traveling. Because usually when I'm in Times Square, I'm trying to get through there, and there's so many people there, I can't deal with it anymore. But there's a good thing that I love about my memories of going around with Mom, and that's going around the Circle Line and seeing New York City from in the water, getting real up and close to the Statue of Liberty, going underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, and really cool places. So I couldn't help but think to myself, hey, I want to have a little bit of a retro experience. So I pulled in Chief Marketing Officer from New York Cruise Lines, the parent company of Circle Line Sightseeing Cruise, Mr. Sam Kimball. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. Good to be with you, Glenn.
Yeah, it's good to be with you, too. Let me tell you, I am pretty excited to have you on board because as I was just saying, I think Circle Line is part of the quintessential New York experience. It must be pretty cool working for a company that's so embedded in the psyche of the city.
It really is. And, as a native New Yorker myself, I, like you, truly appreciate the legacy and the history of Circle Line, which goes back to the 40s. It goes back 72 years ago when we were founded. And
1945. So does that mean that you folks took some vessels that were maybe used in World War II and then converted them and got going right from that way?
I'm going to tell you, Counselor, that you're leading the witness, and you are 100% correct.
Good.
The original 6 Circle Line vessels,
right,
which so many millions of people are familiar with, the red, green, and white kind of longish vessels that you see circling Manhattan, were troop carriers from the Navy in World War II.
Wow.
And believe it or not, they served us extraordinarily ably for 60 some odd years until 2008. We replaced 3 of them with 3 brand new state-of-the-art sightseeing boats. Still have the red, green, and white look, and they had to have low-slung, longish boats, but state-of-the-art in every other way. The World War II troop carrier boats did not have onboard complimentary Wi-Fi and other such amenities, as you can imagine. I'm
a little hurt that you didn't have complimentary Wi-Fi back when I was growing up in the 1970s. I'm still smarting from that. There, had we predicted the tech boom, we might have been there. Well, I want you to know I rode those boats, and I have such affinity for those original sailing vessels that you had from that World War II era. And it's amazing to me how not only long they could last, but how other companies that are in the ferry business, for example, like the ferries that are in the North Fork on Long Island, for example, still use vessels that come from the World War II era. So it's not like they weren't great boats to continue using, but you were looking to upgrade the system, right?
Well, we were, and truth be told, we had 6, so we replaced 3 in 2008. We actually still have 2 of them in service, but this year I'm very, very excited to announce we've launched and in the process of doing the official ceremonial launching of 3 brand new boats that are 2017 class boats, which are triple decker. And these do not look like your father's Circle Line boats. These are truly luxurious, state-of-the-art sightseeing vessels. There's nothing like them in North America. And 2 of them are coming online. One is already here and in service. Another is arriving in about 30 days, and a third will come in the early midsummer. Those 3 will complete the effective replacement of the 6 original World War II boats. That being said, since we acquired and merged with New York Water Taxi, which has a downtown pier at South Street Seaport, the last of the World War II boats will actually run from South Street Seaport for an awesome cruise called the Statue of Liberty Express and the Statue by Night, which is a quick run from South Street Seaport to the Statue of Liberty. So the Circle Line 17 will continue downtown.
And
so
you could
we'll
get you could get tickets for that for $30 or $31, depending on the time of day for it. And it's a short 1 hour cruise back and forth, which is perfect for those conference goers coming to New York that may not have a lot of time, but wanting to get in a little bit of that sightseeing experience.
And what's truly special for me, as a chief marketing officer here, is that the merger and acquisition with New York Water Taxi has now allowed us to have two locations, Midtown and downtown. And so, in fact, for those convention goers and business travelers who want to do a quick cruise experience, we have the same 1 hour Statue of Liberty cruise here at our Midtown original headquarters. We run those multiple times a day as well.
That's pretty cool. I like the idea of the Landmarks and Brooklyn cruise, a 2 hour tour. That's the one that'll probably take you underneath the Brooklyn Bridge that I remember so much as a kid.
Well, actually, the one you went on as a kid is the original Circle Line Best of NYC cruise.
All right.
That's the one that actually circumnavigates Manhattan, goes all the way around the island.
Wow. I don't remember going all the way around. That's pretty darn cool that it did that.
It takes you up all the way up the East River. You cross underneath the RFK Triborough Bridge. You go into the Harlem River, and you cross under a number of bridges there. You pass Yankee Stadium.
That's
fun. You come out the northern end of Manhattan and cruise down the Hudson again.
That's pretty neat. I'm gonna have to take my kids now that I have kids. I'm gonna have to take them and do that as well one day. All right. So I want to know a little bit about this Empire class fleet. What's some of the new services and amenities, and why am I going to enjoy life on a triple-decker boat instead of a regular boat these days?
Well, that's a great question. I've had the pleasure of going on a cruise on the new Circle Line Bronx, which is the first of the new boats. And in fact, the correct term, and it's my fault for calling them the Empire class, the correct term for them is the Bronx class boats. Okay. Because whenever you have a new model of a boat or an aircraft, the name of the first one is the name of the class.
Ah, I didn't know that.
So, in this case, the first boat in the triple-decker class of state-of-the-art boats is the Circle Line Bronx. So this is the Bronx class of boats. So there's a couple things going on. One is they are very, very sleek and quiet and fast.
Ooh, I like the idea of quiet.
They're
because
quiet.
Then I can hold a conversation and say, "Look, Ma, look at that," instead of right.
You have these amazing modern engines.
Yeah.
In a large vessel that's been engineered for passenger comfort and sightseeing. And so some of the things that you will experience is, the first thing is the boat is super whisper quiet. You don't even feel like you don't even hear the engine basically when you're on the second deck or the third deck. Cool. It's just going through the water. When you're inside, and there's a tremendous amount of space on the boat. There are 3 decks. The first level deck has a much higher ceiling than any of our other Circle Line boats. It's about a 9.5-foot ceiling. And then when you're inside, along the windows themselves are basically all picture window size. I mean, they're gigantic. So you can see the skyline with extraordinary clarity, and the scope of the vision that you have is amazing through those windows. You go upstairs to the second deck. There's not only more inside space, but there's a huge outdoor area that goes from about a third of the way from the bow, the front of the boat, all the way to the stern.
Wow. And
that entire second deck outdoors is a place where people can really enjoy a beautiful day or a beautiful evening. I mean, one of our most popular cruises is the Harbor Lights cruise, where you see, the twinkling harbor lights and the sunset on the water. But additionally, and this is very exciting, we really architected and engineered these new Bronx-class boats to have, in the back of that outdoor area on the second deck, a stage. It's raised up a foot or so off of the deck. There's a 20 by 20 foot stage back there.
Neat.
Where we can actually do entertainment, live music, and really do some fun nighttime cruises and feature performances and performers on the boat.
I like that. That sounds like it's something that a large organization may also want to rent out as well. Bring the people out on the water, have some entertainment for them, and all that kind of good stuff.
You are 100% right, and we are. We've had the Bronx here for 3 months, and everyone who comes to see it, who's interested in chartering a boat for an event or something during the summer months, has been blown away by the platform that it offers. And so we're busy as beavers right now doing a number of special events and charters and private events on the Bronx at night for that very reason. The other big benefit of these triple-decker boats is there's
onboard booze? Is that?
Well, there's onboard booze. There's amazing onboard booze, and the food and beverage setup and amenities are great. But the third deck is a VIP deck. It's partially covered from the element and protected from the elements.
Right.
But it's also got a wonderful outdoor space. You can have about 120 people up there. The views from that deck, which is one flight up from the main captain's bridge for the boat, are just extraordinary. And then when you walk to the back of that third deck and you look down on the second deck, the outdoor space with the entertainment area and the stage, you basically have front row seats if there's a show.
Neat. I love that. And, you always got to do a VIP these days, and it's interesting that you're playing into that phenomenon because we're seeing now that people are willing to pay more for more highly curated and specialized experiences.
I think that's right. And, we'll talk in the fall, Glenn, but I have a feeling I'll have an update for you then. It'll be interesting because we are going to be doing a number of special event cruises where there's a VIP ticket and you get to that third deck with the VIP.
Ah, I love that. And do you guys do anything around the Macy's fireworks on July 4th? Or are you even allowed out there on that night?
It's funny. We actually, along with a number of other boat companies in the harbor, we do our own fireworks on the Hudson.
Oh, neat.
And we have been doing them for about 15 years. We can't fill the boats fast enough.
I bet.
It's literally every boat in our fleet. We'll have 25 vessels fully packed with people on July 4th for that event.
Wow,
and
so I guess I'll have to wait till 2018 now to get my tickets.
Well, I might have somebody who can help you with that. But.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That sounds pretty cool. But all right. So what I'm curious to know is, sure, Circle Line is part of New York culture. You can't help but think of one through the other. But you're a marketing guy, and there's a lot of things for people to see in New York. And sure, there are millions and millions and millions and millions of people in record numbers coming to New York. But how do you break through the din in order to be heard and get people to actually come to the Circle Line and take the cruises?
That's a great question. That's a big part of my job.
Right.
We work very closely with a number of our channel partners who are resellers of our tickets, and they range from tour operators to online travel agencies. We work with NYC & Company, the official marketing arm of New York City. We spend time, the marketing and the sales teams are out at events around the world, Europe, in the U.S., in conventions. We exhibit. We talk about our products. As you know, Glenn, in the travel space, the sales channel is very, very important. We're not a business that sells 100% of its product or service directly.
Right.
And so doing business with and collaborating with in strategic ways the leading tour operators, online travel agencies, and others is very important.
Right. For example, you take part in something called the New York Pass, where you can get in to see 80 plus New York City attractions, correct?
That's right. We work with several of the leading pass companies. We work with some of the leading bus companies as well. Because people, when they're coming to New York, whether they're coming from London or Omaha, Nebraska or Shanghai, China, they are planning ahead. And they've got a limited amount of time. They're here for 5 days. They're here for 7 days. And they need to pack in as much as they can in that time frame. So there's a certain segment of that buying audience that's going to do business with the passes, with the buses, and they're going to want to get as much packed into their 5 or 6 days in New York City as they can.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Sam. People really want to have all of that stuff kind of bundled, made convenient for them. And by participating in a program like that, I bet you get a lot of folks that probably would not have taken the effort to come otherwise.
I think that's right, but we are also, unlike other folks in the space, we're very, very fortunate in that we have an extraordinary, iconic New York brand. And so we have quite a lot of people who come to us and book their cruise tickets directly with Circle Line. I would say we're one of the industry leaders in that regard, without getting into specific numbers. And I will also say that, there are benefits to coming to us directly. If you want to get that premier class ticket, which is the VIP ticket, which gets you on the third deck of the new boats, it gets you preferred seating and special amenities on all of our boats. You have to get that from us directly. If you want to book the exact day and time of your cruise, so Thursday at 3:30 p.m., you want to take the Landmarks in Brooklyn cruise, you've got to do that directly. Otherwise, you're showing up here with a voucher. We have an amazing box office and greeter team that takes care of people, customer service. But you're coming here and then queuing up to get on a boat. So there are definitely benefits to working with us directly. And so for certain folks who know they're going to take a cruise, it probably makes a lot of sense to do that. Whereas the ones who want the option, depending on weather, hey, I might go to Top of the Rock, I might go to the Intrepid, let me see what the weather's like that day. Those folks will often do very well with the pass or the bundled deal.
Yeah, and I will also say one of the cool things that you do now that you have the New York water taxi is, as a former Brooklyn boy, I know people love going out to Brooklyn and experiencing that. I'm going to say that you could probably take one from Manhattan to places like Red Hook and then kind of go from there. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we have an amazing business and our division at New York Water Taxi that basically operates what they call a hop on, hop off service. It's an all-day access pass.
Cool.
You could buy it, for a very reasonable price. You get on one of our water taxis. You design your own cruise, your own tour at that point. You say, listen, let me get on at Pier 84, which is on the west side of Manhattan. Let me go downtown. Let me get off at Pier 11. Let me go around to the South Street Seaport area. And it basically lets you just get on and off all day long. And there's quite a few people who like to do that because they're, depending on their whim or the weather, they get off, they walk around for an hour, they go have lunch somewhere, and then they go back to where the boat is picking up at a certain time, at a certain pier, and they get back on and they keep going.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the get on and off at your leisure type of scenarios, because the last thing I want is to be fully captivated in whatever experience I'm having and then got to drop everything and run because I got to make a bus or a boat or other mode of transportation.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So you guys also have the Beast, right? That's that super fast speedboat that goes by the Statue of Liberty. Yes.
That is right. That's right.
That thing is pretty cool. Maybe you could tell everyone a little bit about how awesome it is going across the Hudson at super fast speed right on the water.
Well, it's basically a roller coaster ride on the water.
Yeah.
The Beast has a several thousand horsepower motor. It goes at speeds of up to 50 miles an hour. It's an extraordinary experience, and it's very, very popular. We are running it all from the mid-late spring through the summer. we see a tremendous number of young people, kids, school groups, camps that come out and have a great time enjoying that experience that we offer.
Yeah, I think I did that once. I want to say when I was a teen travel counselor, but I think it's more likely I did it with myself and idiot friends when I was home from summer vacation during college. That sounds like it was more of that kind of an activity for us. Pretty cool stuff. What's it like working for a company that's so entrenched in New York history?
You know, it's truly a pleasure because I feel like, we're standing on the shoulders of some really visionary people who came up with the idea of Circle Line and the experience that it offers. And it's a privilege. It's really a privilege. We have a wonderful brand, a wonderful history. It's funny, when I came on board as the chief marketing officer and started to look at how we would sort of think of new ways and exciting ways to refresh our marketing communications and messaging, I started going through old files.
Cool.
Of the old advertising creative. And we're talking 72 years of history. So
right.
I went back to the Mad Men days in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
And I found the most amazing, smart, clever taglines, slogans, creative copy points. And we're actually using some of those in some of our new marketing collateral because that's just one of the benefits of being, as you said, what's it like working at a company that's iconic, and that's one of the benefits.
That's pretty neat to do that. I picture with the 75th anniversary coming up, you could do a whole series of rerunning classic ads and stuff like that. It'd be pretty neat.
It's amazing. If you go on YouTube, if you got to spare a couple minutes, you go on YouTube, you will see TV ads from the 60s and 70s for Circle Line.
Oh, that is pretty awesome. All right, I'm still gonna have to Google that.
So that's just a really fun thing. I think the other thing
I just found one from 1978. Boom.
Yeah.
Look at those lapels.
Exactly. And it's funny, Glenn, one of the things that I'm really excited about as we sort of lead the charge into the next 7 decades of Circle Line's history. In addition to launching the 3 new state-of-the-art boats this year, I'm really excited about basically bringing back the experience that you had.
Right.
Because you're a local, you're a New Yorker. You're from New York. I'm from New York. We all went on the Circle Line. One thing that's changed is, as New York has now gotten to, and it's hard to even fathom these numbers, as New York is now approaching 61 million tourists and visitors a year, we've gotten away from, and we serve a lot of tourists here at Circle Line, but at the end of the day, the thing that we do less of than we used to is serve the local audience, people who live in and around New York who they might have kids, and they might want to come out on a Saturday or a Sunday and do a cruise around Manhattan. And that's something I'm excited about bringing back. And one of the reasons, I was brought on board here was to work on things like that, as well as to enhance the entertainment cruises and special event cruises, so that we would have things for locals to do. Because it's wonderful that we give the opportunity to all these tourists to see New York City from the vantage point of the water. But what about the folks who live here? It's almost a forgotten experience, and that's something that we're really looking forward to digging into.
I love that idea because it is a forgotten experience in a lot of ways. Here I am, I'm getting older. I have my kids, and I don't do what my mom did for me. I don't bring my kids into the city enough and imbibe in that sense of nostalgia. Yeah, drinking it in. I meant imbibe. I said that purposely, And I want my kids to have that New Yorky type of experience, even though they lived in Brooklyn for a good chunk of their lives, So I think I'm going to.
What's interesting is I will be at an event. I could be here in New York. I might be in London at the World Travel Marketplace. Ooh. And if I talk to anybody who's from New York, who's over the age of, let's say, 40.
That's me.
Without fail, they went on the Circle Line as a kid.
Yeah.
With their parents or with their uncle or with their grandparents, literally without fail. It's amazing.
Well, there wasn't really nearly as much to do back then. It was the Circle Line, World Trade Center, Empire State Building, Radio City Music Hall to go see when they had movies and then a stage show and then a movie again, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty much the whole thing. And the NBC studio tour back when it was a little bit cooler and more organic, I think. I can't remember what else we used to do. And the museums, of course. But those were the main sightseeing type of things that we did. So, Circle Line, always the number one thing for me, something I really want to do again in my life. Sam, before I wrap up, any final words, shameless plugs? How can people find you? How can people register for the cruise? All that kind of good stuff.
Come visit us at circleline.com. Come see us in person at Pier 83, 42nd Street in the West Side Highway, or downtown at Pier 16 in the South Street Seaport. We have an amazing diversity of experiences on the water. And for those locals, for people who live in New York who are listening, we have launched this year a really cool new slate of special event cruises and entertainment events on the water. Keep your eyes peeled for those. Everything from Cinco de Mayo cruise to Rockin' on the River cruises with national rock and roll bands. It's really fun, and we're here to put smiles on people's faces.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here, Sam, the Chief Marketing Officer with Circle Line. I want to thank all of you guys for listening. This was a lot of fun, a lot of nostalgia for me, and I'll tell you what, I'm usually say I'm going to be back next week, but this time I may not be back next week because I may just be out on the Hudson and East Rivers on a Circle Line cruise. I'll see you guys next week, and thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.